Hey you guys, welcome back to Deandra J, K, and K. My name is Deandra, and today we are going to be talking about wings. Not the ones you had last night, lemon pepper hot. Today we are going to be looking at chapter 4 of Beyond the Story. Yes. So chapter 4 is titled Inside Out. We are entering our wings era. Let's go ahead and jump into this. So again, this is like a book club. I'm just pointing out things that stood out to me. Like I said, when I started this series, I already knew a lot about BTS. However, there are things that they have done, content that they put out, obviously feelings that we would never know of. And when I read the back of the book, it said that it was going to fill in those gaps that we didn't know. So I immediately bought this book because of that. So when you hear me point out certain things in the book, it's not necessarily a play-by-play summary. Now, the biggest points may be brought up in chronological order that is listed in the book, but it's not like me doing a complete summary of the chapter, if that makes sense. It may align that way, but some things could be left out because to me, it didn't stick out that much as somebody else who probably looked at that information and they said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about BTS. That stood out to me. For me, I probably A, already knew it, or B, it was just filler information in my opinion. So yeah, just letting you guys know that. Without further ado, let's jump into this book club discussion. So in this chapter, we learn that BTS added an additional meaning to their name. On top of Bulletproof Boy Scouts, they added Beyond the Scene. So when this first happened, I remember I reacted to the news. Hey guys, so I just found out that BTS is now Beyond the Scenes. And I also saw their new logo, insert here, and I mean, it's nice. Believe me, it's nice, but why? Like, I like the Bulletproof Boy Scout logo. And it was just a lot. I felt like, why couldn't we keep Bulletproof Boy Scouts? I already felt like things were changing. BTS had gotten so popular when Blood, Sweat, and Tears came out. People no longer had to search Bulletproof Boy Scouts or Bangtan, just BTS. In the beginning, BTS was very fan service, very like cutesy. If they did anything fan service, it was very cutesy. I will give the fact that in No More Dreams, Jimin showed his abs. Like, yes, they did go that angle, but Blood, Sweat, and Tears is unmistakably sex appeal. In that music video, BTS were not the tempters, they were the tempted. They were confused. They were seen rubbing on their bodies and making gestures reminiscent of choking. And I think for audiences at the time, it was just like, oh my goodness. I really liked how heavily involved with the creative process they were in this album, and how through reading books like the Book of Damien, they were able to pull out this entire universe, bring out certain emotions that they wanted to portray on screen, such as sex appeal, desire, temptation. And speaking on the creative process, I really like that each of the members got their own solo songs. And for a lot of the members, this was their first solo song. One of those members were Jin. And I like that when Jin was making his song for Wings, which was Await, he pushed back to keep his chorus melody. And he had to convince everybody in the room, like, hey, this is what I want to go with. This is my first solo song. And so he had to convince, or he started to convince P-Dog first, their in-house producer. And my outtake from that is I never really saw Jin as a songwriter or a composer. So up until his solo albums, like Astronaut and all that, I only saw him as a visual. So reading that this was a defining moment for him in Wings and he actually was a part of the creative process really took me aback, because I didn't see Jin sitting down with a pen and paper. I didn't see him like that. So I was really impressed by him after reading that. So let's talk about the stats of Wings, because I think people may gloss over it because of more popular albums. But Wings was really a moment in time. I remember it came out. I had everybody I knew react to it. Wings recorded 751,301 net shipments in 2016, topping the Gaon chart that year by tripling the performance of The Most Beautiful Moments in Life Part 2, which itself had performed markedly better than its predecessor. So like every year BTS is doing great. They're beating their own record. Wings was also ranked 26 on the Billboard 200, an unprecedented top performance among Korean artists, and was the only album by Korean artists to stay on the chart for 2 weeks running. Even with Wings, BTS didn't produce English language songs, nor did they heavily promote themselves in America yet. But with the 2017 Wings tour, they secured 3 arena-sized venues, and Billboard magazine covered the New York show. Just before then, The Most Beautiful Moments in Life on stage tour in 2016 was exclusive to Asia. That's how big their demand grew. That's a huge step from where they just were last year. Mind you, they had just debuted 3 years prior. That is crazy work. 2017, they had just debuted 4 years prior. That is crazy work. Even to do arenas in 2016 is impressive. But in 4 years' time, your demand is so high that you're able to go to America and perform. And I will say this, in 2017, BTS was huge again. I don't know if I said that in my last video, but here in America, in K-pop spaces, the demand was high. I remember being in college in a K-pop club, and everybody in the daggone club was loving BTS. Everybody talked about BTS. It began to get annoying to me. I was like, okay. I thought these were my little hidden treasure, something that nobody knew about except for Koreans, obviously. But when I tell you, and some people here and there, but when I tell you the cat was out of the bag, you could not deny their popularity here in 2017. It was unmistakable. So that's how big their demand grew. And on page 249, Jimin says they were at the point where it would have been rude to say they didn't know how popular they were. He said that they could see their venues increasing in size, but they didn't get a real sense of their popularity increasing, which is actually insane to me because it almost feels too humble or too oblivious. And I wonder if it's because they were in an all or nothing mode and they never took the time to stop and smell the roses because they have to run and get hit after hit after hit, produce content for V Live, run BTS, the whole shebang. So I just figured how don't you know how big you are? That is insane. I think I mentioned this maybe in my last video, maybe not, but it was around it had to be 2016. Was it 26? It had to be 2015 maybe. BTS had came to Atlanta for the first time to do a show. And I remember being in high school, it was raining, and I felt like I was looking out the window with one single tear just falling down my face, longing to see them. Because at the time I had asked my aunt, would you take me to go see BTS? And she was just like, yeah, we'll figure it out. But at the time, I don't think we both had money. And I don't know how we were going to get the money. By the way, tickets at this point in time, affordable, just affordable. And I just don't think we had a ride up there. I don't think we knew how to buy tickets. I don't know what the dilemma, I can't remember what the dilemma was for the time. But I remember coming back that night, looking at all the responses from the show, and people were mad. Apparently, the show organizer oversold tickets. So you had people sitting outside of the venue in the rain, even though they bought tickets to see them. I think you can even type in on YouTube, meeting BTS in 2014, Atlanta or something like that. And in one of the girls, shorts. It's a girl short. She shows herself getting autographs from each member. And in the comments, somebody said something to the effect like, how was the concert? Or something like that. It corroborates what I was just saying. She mentions that people were standing in the rain and it was crazy just sitting out there, knowing you bought the tickets, knowing, you know, you're just about to see BTS. BTS is right in front of you and you're stuck outside in the rain. That is crazy. Also, that just goes to show they packed that venue at that time. So in Atlanta, we're really big into our music here. If they were able to pack a venue like that, I can already see success was to come for them. Anyway, jumping back into the book, I just had to say that. So we're talking about how much they did not realize their popularity. Suga said he had a really big concern about looking over the responses to their work because he didn't want to get conceited and start slacking off. But BTS, of course, remained the target of hate, especially when they were due to take stage or receive an award. People made orchestrated cyberbullying attacks, and this kind of feels similar to what's happening right now. I don't know if you guys heard, but there's this guy named Palo Alto, and he went on a podcast to talk about how, you know, the industry isn't working for him because unlike being in idle spaces, you really have to go after a lot of things yourself. You don't really have a machine behind you. So he name drops BTS's J-Hope. And I really think he could have done without that. That part is like, okay, you really could have. Now I understand who else got really big features, but you didn't have to name drop. Like, you really could have just left it up in the air for speculation. Now I do understand sometimes, you know, you gotta talk your ish. He wanted to name drop and put it out there. Like, I don't like how J-Hope got this feature with J. Cole. Cool. You want to say it with your chest? Fine. Originally, when I heard what had happened in passing, I didn't look at the entire thing, but just in passing, I think I saw a clip or two. I originally felt sympathy for him because he felt overlooked. But after digging, I find that he actually has a company, and under his company is Be Free. Hold on, let me look that up if Be Free is still under this man's company, because that would be a gag and a half. So the Korean rapper Palo Alto, Jun Songhyun, founded his own record label, Highlight Records, in 2010. The label housed notable Korean hip-hop artists such as Be Free, Huckleberry P, and Reddy. However, the company officially disbanded in 2022. So that was a recent disbandment. He is such a hater. Anyway, also, apparently Bong Shi-hyuk went over to his company and wanted to talk about things, smooth things over. And he was just like, no, I don't want to talk about nothing. So you sat here and you go on a podcast and you're venting all your feelings. It's embarrassing because also, too, you have people like Yuki Chiba, who is in the underground rap world, and he started there. But he's no longer underground because he over here getting collabs with Megan Thee Stallion. And all I gotta say is step your cookies up.
All you other entertainment companies, step your cookies up.
Because you're not gonna sit here and complain about every little thing when you had the CEO of Big Hit come to you to smooth things over. Like, you actually could have gotten notoriety, but instead you just choose to complain, along with Be Free, who we covered in chapter 2. So there's that. That's all I gotta say about that situation. But I just had to mention it because there's so many attacks whenever BTS does something good, and I just find it very interesting you choose this moment to talk about them. In 2014, BTS were beaten down from frigid stares to now receiving so much love from the audience. They went from sharing a stage with Block B in 2014 to getting 11 minutes at the 2016 Mama Awards. That blindfolded parallel dance that J-Hope and Jimin did, iconic. And they ended up winning Artist of the Year. I learned from this chapter that V has so much pride in BTS. He looks up to them, all his members, so much. There were quotes seen on page 244 and 245. Let me find them and read them for you. V says, like with the other members, Big Hit was my first company, and I debuted through this first company. I never even heard about what other teams and companies were like. So when I looked at the other members, it's just like I became fearless. For example, they're the kind of people I could brag about at school, saying, "This is my Hyung," which means older brother. From the beginning, these people were celebrities in my eyes. That is so endearing. Another quote that he says, it's on this blue page. He says, "It was like it felt like a miracle. To be honest, just being nominated was awesome. But when we got the award, the feeling I personally got was I knew Bangtan would win. No matter what anyone says, Bangtan is going to win." And you know, whenever V puts it out into the air, apparently it happens. He's kind of like a good luck charm the way this book frames it. Whenever V says something, it ended up happening for BTS. That was seen in chapter 3, Love Hate Army. But again, just seeing how much he loves BTS and the way he speaks so highly about them, his members, their success, himself, it's very encouraging and great to see, because it just shows how much morale is in that group. And it's not just cash grab. The album You Never Walk Alone comes out, and it's so funny. Whenever they go through albums that I don't currently have, I'm like, should I get this album? Because it brings so much nostalgia back to me. I will get to that when I do a video going over what's on my K-pop shelf, all the albums that I have. I'll talk about it then. You Never Walk Alone comes out. This is like a special repackaging of Wings. It includes all those songs on Wings, and this album also includes Spring Day. A lot of people actually interpreted the lyrics to be about the 2014 Sewol ferry drowning. BTS never confirmed or denied and left that up for interpretation. And audience had good reason to speculate with BTS's music video. However, the two lyricists of the song, RM and Suga, say it's about the friends that they lost or they are no longer close to. Later, Suga would actually quote lyrics from Spring Day in Dear My Friend. Suga's words stood out to me because I remember reading somewhere that the friend that he's allegedly referencing, resenting, is Jung Hun Chul, aka Iron. Here's why, and I'm gonna try to make this really quick. So Iron was actually a former Big Hit trainee, and he was part of the early lineup of trainees that included Suga and RM before BTS's final lineup was formed. He later went on Show Me the Money 3, which iconic. That whole show was iconic. And it's jump-started his solo rap career. In 2018, though, things took a turn. He was convicted of assaulting his then girlfriend. The case involved serious allegations, and he received a suspended prison sentence. Then in late 2020, so this is relatively recent, he was arrested again in a separate assault case involving his roommate. And then on January 25th, 2021, a security guard found him laying in a flower bed outside of an apartment complex. He was then taken to the hospital, but they found that he was pronounced dead. Police found no evidence of foul play, and the exact circumstances surrounding his death were never publicly determined. So going back to Suga's song regarding Dear My Friend from the D2 album, Suga has never officially confirmed who the song is about. However, with all the clues that were in the song, such as they were trainees together, the lyrics described a close friend whose life took a tragic turn, the song references prison, and seeing someone change over time. You can guess that's who Suga's talking about, of course. This is all speculation and, guesses, and music can mean certain things to certain people. To me, I concluded that he is talking about Iron. From the most beautiful moments in life to Wings to You Never Walk Alone, BTS sang about disconnected individuals coming together in solidarity through community. I think that's what makes them stand out. A lot of people I found are BTS fans, but they're not K-pop fans. And at first I thought that was a little weird, but I have to say this constant theme in BTS's discography sets them apart hands down. They are very different from their competitors and they do it well. Anyway, moving on, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. My favorite song from Wings is very hard to pick. It's between Jungkook's Begin with Jungkook's vocals because they're gorgeous, or First Love. First Love by Suga, the explosiveness of the instrumentals along with Suga's vocal crescendo, giving us that intensity. And as the memories and pain is overwhelming him throughout the song, then the violin that almost has like a sorrowful sound to add that drama. And then here comes an electric guitar just out of nowhere to build that intensity even more during the climax of the song, all sitting on top of a piano that plays the entire time to remind us of Suga's first love. Amazing. The composition of that song, amazing. I think that may take the cake. First Love is my favorite song off the album. My favorite song off of Wings. Honorable mentions would have to be Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Iconic. It propelled them even further. And then Lost. I really like the song Lost. My favorite song from You Never Walk Alone is Not Today. I actually did a dance cover of it back in 2017 with my sister, but I will not be unprivating that video because it is embarrassing to look back on, but also it is kind of endearing. So there's that, but it's a lot. Let me know what your favorite song is from Wings and You Never Walk Alone. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye.